Hi, everyone. My name is Ana Ribeiro, and I work at the Office of Intramural Training and Education at the NIH. I have four panelists here with me today: Nadene Hauser-Archult, Suman Mukherjee, Laurie Kelman, and Maggie Emblom-Callahan. They're all professors at different institutions, and we will have each of them introduce themselves, tell us where they work, a little bit about their career paths, and what led them to apply to teach at a community college. Nadene, would you like to start?
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Nadene Hauser-Archult, and I'm a full professor at Prince George's Community College in Largo, Maryland. I teach chemistry there, primarily organic chemistry, but also general chemistry and biochemistry. And I'm a product of the New York City public school system. And there, I got on the science track at the Bronx High School of Science. From there, I attended Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. And I also obtained my master's in synthetic organic chemistry from Fisk University. From there, I obtained my PhD from the Wichita State University in Kansas, and it was in bioorganic synthesis. Right out of college, I married an Air Force man and an Air Force officer, and so we moved about every third year. And so that was one of the reasons that I took employment in community colleges. When my husband was stationed at Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama, I was privileged to teach at Alabama State University, which is an HBCU, historically Black college or university in Montgomery, Alabama. And I was an assistant professor of chemistry there for 3 years. And it was a really nice environment there. While I was there, I also took some education coursework because moving every 3 years, I wasn't sure what kind of employment would be open to me. So I tried to get certified to teach in high school, but we moved before I could finish the certification. And so when we moved to California, I was very honest with potential employers, letting them know that I was a military spouse and that in all likelihood I wouldn't be there very long. And so I was not interesting to four-year institutions, especially to research institutions, because by the time you'd set up a research program, it'd be time to go, And so I worked full-time and as an adjunct at American River College in Sacramento and as an adjunct at Sacramento City College. From there, we moved back to the East Coast and we moved to what is now called Joint Base Andrews. And I anticipated moving in 3 years when I applied to Prince George's Community College. When I was hired there, I let my boss know I'd probably be gone, but it turned out that we got to stay. And my husband retired. I started there at 2000, in the year 2000, and my husband got to retire in 2007. And by that time, I was already tenured and a full professor. And so I have kept on working there, and I'm eligible to retire in 2 years. And so I didn't come to the community college for any particular philosophical reason, but I must say that I've enjoyed the putting the teaching first mission that you find at the community college.
Thank you. Suman?
Sorry, this is Suman Mukherjee. I came to United States in just after 9/11, 2001. To Texas, and then moved to New Mexico State after master's and did my PhD in biochemistry, molecular biology, and enzyme kinetics and more like genome sequencing and characterization of a pathway. Then I moved with my wife to NIH and did my research at NIDDK, actually, is genetics. And then after 2 years, I thought that I'm not really good on bench. I am good, but my interest was for something else, policy. And I joined the Genetic Alliance, and also I moved to Building 2, Building 1. That's how I got connected with Sharon Milgram and Erica. And then I started some policy research. I also parallelly worked with Genetic Alliance and work at Hill for education group, Education Bill. And then I was thinking about either job in teaching or policy. It was too late for me for the age, for my degree. I didn't have the right law degree. So I moved to Montgomery College. I taught a few classes there. And then in the meantime, I was trying, and then I got the job at Nova on a community college day, exactly like this day, what you are celebrating this year, although virtually. And I met with Dr. Emblom, and she's right here. And then I got the job there. I started to teach. That's my starting point in community college. And why community college? Because I did not try anywhere else, to be honest with you. I thought that would be the best beginning to have teaching experience. And also it's close to NIH, so we talked a lot about research, and it is some student-driven research, my plan was. And then in the meantime, my wife moved to Madison, Wisconsin. We moved there, and I got a certification, and that was the turning point of my online teaching, which is very important and relevant now for all of you. We may go back to on ground soon, but I teach a few courses since then online for Northern Virginia Community College, Alexandria campus. And then I moved to Boston because of my wife's biotech job, and I applied many places. Then I got a job as an instructor in Bunker Hill Community College. But also I want to mention, it is not only the teaching. Teaching is in my DNA. Teaching I like. I love to communicate with the student. I love to know them, what's their career goal and what they are thinking, why they came to the class. I always ask, what's your next plan? Why you are taking the class? This anatomy or biology or microbiology. Do you want to be a nurse or a doctor? Or do you want to go for PhD? And I give them my experience and my ideas, and connection. And then Dean, 2 years back, proposed and suggested if I want to get a part-time. And it is very common in Boston. I do not know about other city. You can have breach program. You can have LSAMP. You can have as a full-time instructor. You can coordinate another program. So I am in the UMass payroll, partly. UMass Boston have a LSAMP grant. It is specifically for green card and US citizen, but it is mostly for minority research. That's the main goal, to help the minority student, African American, Latino, and American Indian. And then I connect with them with Biogen, with Novartis, with Takeda, with Moderna, and all Harvard, MIT, BU, we have lots. So it's academic institutes, a lot of institute in Boston. It's a city of hospital and healthcare and academic institutes. So that's my daily life. So it is not uncommon for a community college professor to teach to places, to be honest with you. Many times, if you are a full-time instructor, you may teach in a university for 1 day or 2 days, which is not uncommon. That is, so in a nutshell, my message to you guys, it's like, yes, I had the right background. Yes, I had the right enthusiasm and right energy for the community college, but also it's a timing, it's a connection, it's the luck that by chance I was in the community college day, by chance I met with Dr. Maggie, and then I got the job that time. It's a requirement and timing. But now I think, before I end my comment, I think it's very different than a university teaching or a liberal arts college teaching. The demand is different, the crowd is different, the audience is different. You have to have the sympathy, you have to have to understand their full-time work. They work full-time and they come to college. They have family, they may be single mother. So if you go to community college after postdoc, you have to have that your idea and thought that you have to understand why they are there and what they want. And so give your all knowledge and your background, your all you learn from your research and your graduate school, you should give it to them. You should tell them the all science part, and they enjoy more. I feel like I taught in different university, but I feel like this is the most enjoyable job, and the students really like all my experience and my scientific background. So it is a pleasure to teach in a community college. And when you teach, you will understand. It is before you start, it's hard to explain, but this is something in our community. It's very unique in the United States also. I do not have that in India or China or anywhere. It is a very unique system, the transition between high school and university, this community college system. Thank you.
Thank you, Suman. Lori?
Hi, I'm Lori Kelman. I teach at Montgomery College in Germantown, Maryland. And I graduated college during a recession, and the startup that I was working at went out of business. I realized I had taught a lot, but I hadn't considered it as a profession. But I started to take a graduate course, and I became a TA. And that's when I realized I loved teaching. So what I wound up doing was I wanted to teach at a small liberal arts college with small class sizes. I moved to a school to earn a PhD. I was like, go to the best school I could go to. And I wound up getting that job. So I taught for about 10 years at a small liberal arts college in New York. Did a little bit of research, got tenure. It was, in many ways, it was my dream job. And then my husband needed a job. And so we moved and I found myself in another state. Around here, when we talk to people, and I live very close to campus, everybody said, oh, well, if your wife teaches, she has to go look at Montgomery College. And luckily they had jobs. So I went, I looked, I got a job. I have many of the same things. I teach small classes. A couple of the differences now, I teach biotechnology, so that's an unusual program at a community college. Many of my colleagues will teach several of the same subject. Biotech's a little different. It's a little more training than teaching, and it also involves more courses. So I can have 3 different courses per semester, or even 4 different courses per semester, which is kind of unusual. But I love it, and it's been fun, and here I am.
Thank you, Lori. Maggie?
Hi, Anna, and all the people at the NIH. I'm Maggie Emblom-Callahan, and I'm actually a full professor of biology at Northern Virginia Community College. My job is the Associate Dean of Science on the Alexandria campus. I came to the community college from actually a research collaboration between George Mason University, where I had been in graduate school, and doctors at Inova Fairfax Hospital and the Mayo Clinic on idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. And I walked into a classroom one day, just somebody suggested I give adjunct teaching a chance, and I fell in love the very, very first day in the classroom. And part of that's maybe because I was an adult returning student myself. I had not completed my undergraduate degree in a timely, normal fashion. And I finished my undergraduate degree actually where I am now at Nova, and then at George Mason University. I got my master's degree in tumor biology at Georgetown University and finished my PhD in a functional genomics project of idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis at George Mason University. So I love research, but I really love teaching. And as I was teaching and getting to know my colleagues and those people who mentored me, I found that what I really want to do, or make, at least is my mission right now in life, and it may change again, is I want to facilitate the best teaching for students. And I can do that by serving as an administrator. I can help faculty to realize their goals and aspirations, create a positive work environment that's stimulating for the faculty. And I think that's how I promote student success, by the support of the faculty. So I'm super excited to get to know some of you guys, and yep, that's me.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to have you all here with me today to talk about your experience and hopefully to help clarify some ideas for people who are planning on becoming faculty members in the future. And it seems to me that it's very clear your passion for teaching at a community college, and this sets the tone for the conversation, and it makes me very happy. Thank you. So Maggie, I'll start with you. So as an associate Dean of Science, you're responsible for recruiting new faculty members all the time. So what are the qualifications that determine eligibility, and what makes a candidate competitive when applying for a teaching position?
So to teach at a community college in transfer courses, which is all the science courses I oversee, you need to have a master's degree in the field plus 18 credit hours in the field you'll be, a master's degree and 18 credit hours in the field you'll be teaching, and or a PhD in the field you will be teaching. So what makes you competitive is a desire to actually teach. A lot of people apply for full-time jobs, but their mission really isn't to teach at a community college. They're really trying to use it as a stepping stone. For adjuncts, I'm pretty okay with that. People come to us from research backgrounds. That's natural, because that's how you get a degree in science, is you do some research to get your degree. And you need teaching experience to really plug into those good positions at four-year colleges. So by all means, try out your teaching at the community college. But an enthusiasm and a real desire to give it a good try is something I'm looking for when somebody walks in my office. And that definitely gives you a competitive edge. And somebody who's also willing to teach non-majors. We teach all transfer courses all the courses under my jurisdiction are transfer courses, but they're not always majors courses. So you need to have an interest in conveying science to anybody, whatever their background is, automotive, or somebody who took differential equations in high school. So we range the gamut of students here, and I want all of our students to feel your passion for science.
Thank you. Nadene, you also have experience teaching at four-year universities, like you mentioned, such as Alabama State University. So as a professor, what are the main differences between a four-year state university and a community college?
So what I found is that at the four-year university, there's a lot less diversity in the student body. And I'm not talking about race, but the students at Alabama State University, where I taught, they were traditional young people, and they were just out of high school. They lived on campus and in the dormitories. They ate in the cafeteria. Very few of them had jobs. And, you know, frankly, this is the type of college experience that I wish all young people could have. But, you know, that's not the case, not possible. So at the four-year university, some of the students will flunk out, and so you won't see them again. But most of the students succeed. And after knowing them for a few years, for 3 years in my case, you form a real strong bond with them. We have a lot more transients at the community college. So I'm still in touch with some of those students from Alabama State to this day. And, you know, it's a different kind of environment at the HBCU. It's like a family environment. And so the bonding is different. And there's a certain nurturing that you get there that maybe you wouldn't get at a really large university. But at the community college, there's a much greater diversity in the student body. And again, I'm not talking about race, I'm talking about why people are there, what their reasons are for being there. So many of our students, they come to PGCC to take 1 or 2 classes. And so maybe they're doing it for job enhancement or for career professional development, or they're trying to fulfill 1 or 2 requirements that they need for admission to a professional school or some kind of program. But then we have a lot of students who are retirees, and they're seeking to change career fields now. In one classroom, you might have high school students who are dually enrolled. They're going to high school, but they're also taking college classes. And then you might also have some traditional college students, you know, they're full-time enrolled, and the reason that they're there is to save money before they transfer to the four-year institution. But you might also have financially independent students who work full-time, and they cannot, they're young, you know, the normal traditional age, but they can't go full-time. So they're working a full-time job, and then they're nickel and diming classes on the side. And then, as Suman said, You know, you have single mothers or parents who are nickel and diming classes for many, you know, a variety of reasons. And we also have many senior citizens taking classes. They're part of our SAGE program, and they're taking classes for fun, you know, and just for their own enhancement. And so at the four-year institution, pretty much your students are there with the intent of graduating, you know, but at the community college, your students have many, many reasons for being there. And so for many, that goal is not graduation or transfer.
That is so, so interesting. And I'm thinking a lot of the postdocs that who, like me and Suman, come from different countries, and to whom this is very different. And it sounds so, so interesting. Thank you.
And Anna, at a four-year school, if you're going to go teach there, there's some expectation that if you want a permanent position, that you have to do some sort of research track or some sort of publication track. And at the community college, your expectation is that you will grow in teaching. And, so there isn't as much opportunity for research at a community college as there is at a four-year college, because we are teaching universities. That's not to say that there's none, but it's definitely it's a different vibe with the research.
Yeah, teaching is the main goal of the institution.
Right.
And we can see that by the people that are recruited as professors, right? They are in love with teaching. They dedicate their lives to the teaching, and that really shows the purpose of the institution and what is the main goal. And it's very clear. So, Lori, you've been teaching for a very long time, and even though you wanted to become an educator from an early age, you decided to do a PhD in molecular biology. In fact, all of you have PhDs. Is that because you knew you needed it to teach at university level, or because you were looking to develop other skills as a researcher that you consider important to be successful as a professor?
So because I knew I wanted a job teaching, yes, that's why I earned a PhD. And specifically, I actually transferred out of the school I was earning a master's at to go to Cornell to earn a PhD, because I thought it would improve my chances, and I think it probably did. I did, however, choose yeast as a model organism because I was thinking, and at that point I was, again, I was in the four-year system for a while. I wanted to be sure that I had an experimental system that was affordable enough at a small school that I wasn't going to bankrupt them or not be able to do anything. So I did that, but I'm going to rephrase your question just a little bit and say, do you need a PhD? Does a PhD help you teach? No, earning a PhD probably doesn't help you teach, although I know places like NIH are allowing postdocs to broaden their horizons. When I did this, it was considered leaving science, and I interviewed potential to do my PhD project. I interviewed mentors because I wanted one who would recommend me for a teaching job, and there were many who would not. But one of the nice things I would say with the PhD, and I'm really going to generalize here, but you can really dive into the research, and I feel it has helped me keep up more because I continue to read and try to keep up with things. But the thing that I think has to be kept in mind is that you've also got to generalize, and that's probably a lot more important and maybe the challenge, because you need to be able to explain concepts and connect concepts, and you really have to be a generalist. I feel very confident stating that Montgomery College and probably none of the community colleges teach a course in whoever's listening to this crazy specialized subject. We don't teach that. We teach general biology. We teach non-majors chemistry, and that's what we do. So it's important to be prepared to do that.
May I add to what Lori's saying?
Of course.
I find in chemistry that having the PhD or industrial experience where you've really had that hands-on use for more than just the 2 years of the master's is very helpful, because more than likely you're going to be the person maintaining the instruments. All right, so you're going to maintain the IR and the UV and the mass spec and whatever you have. And so the more experience that you've had with that, like in the research setting where, you have your group duties and, you learn to perform the preventive maintenance and so forth, that's really very helpful. And having that extra experience, it does help you to be a better generalist, just in a personal opinion.
Yes,
I
that's
actually
very
agree with
important.
both. I'm sorry. I actually agree with Nadine and Lori on that. When you have the PhD, you're able, I feel like those who've had the PhD are able to make connections and act as a generalist more effectively, because you know what's essential to what you need to teach. And you know where you can add on when you have exceptional students. And it's really hard to do that when you don't have the same experience that you get out of digging into a PhD. Just my opinion. But I also think the equipment thing that Nadine talks about, I mean, we have a GC mass spec, we have an IR, we have an NMR, we have nanodrops, we have fluorescent microscopes, and it helps to have people come in who know how to use them, right? And usually
Yes.
you get out of the PhD.
Right.
So you're professors and problem solvers, right? Which the researchers, it's the biggest skill for a researcher is really to learn how to, spontaneously solve a problem at the moment, right?
It's the same core skill set you get. It's the same core skill set.
Yes. And I was going to add something to what Lori was saying, that back then it was seen as living science, right? Having, investing in teaching. But the truth is that still now in a lot of countries, like the one where I come from, you do research or you teach or you do something else, right? You don't do everything at the same time, because that's actually considered not paying a lot of attention and not wanting to continue a career in research. Because if you want to be a researcher, a successful researcher, you have to invest 100% of your time. So I'm really glad that we are having this conversation to show people that they should invest this energy in expanding their interests while they are doing research, because you never know what your next step will be. And so it is essential that you start thinking about that ahead of time, right? Paying attention to what are your interests and your skills and your values, so that but ahead of time, so that when the time comes, you then can apply, being more competitive and having a better set of skills, right? Which are not necessarily researcher skills, but other skills that can help you become successful professors. So Suman, talking about skills, I know you also worked as a program coordinator, and you mentioned at the OIT, and that's exactly my position now. I'm a program coordinator at the OIT. And this happened after you left the bench as a researcher. So what skills have you developed in your professional experience, in this case as a researcher and as a program coordinator, which is more of an administrative position that a lot of people decide to do, and sometimes as detailees actually. How did this experience help you as a professor?
So it go to that point where what we started to discuss about PhD. I believe that I do not know about all country, like I know about Indian system, but here when I did in Texas, New Mexico, all the PhD program, and I worked in UT El Paso. So that helps a lot in my program director position, in my teaching position, the communication. Every semester we used to give a committee meeting and the seminar. And my committee members used to grill me about my research, what I'm doing, where I am. Is there will be a publication? Can I apply for a grant? That was my comprehensive exam in the PhD program. So my point is that helps a lot when I go through that 4 or 5 years PhD program. It's a confidence. When I'm teaching, I can connect with the mass spec. Suppose they're showing a PCR. I did that in my own hand. I did all the exome genome sequencing, for an example. So those are very, so communication, confidence, research skill, those help me to go to that teaching level. And to answer your specific question, I always like that coordinator position, because it's kind of a time management, deadline specific, it's more communication. So only teaching would have been, could be, I do not know, it would be boring for me. Now I enjoy my job more, that I organize a seminar. Now I'm doing Women in Science. I'm planning to do a cancer research seminar. All of those, I invite people to give a talk in STEM talk. Those are really interesting combinations. So as a community college professor, you don't have to do the one thing. You can be a part of different committee. Maybe a NASA grant you have, like NOVA is a classic example. And Maggie, remember now, as a postdoc, I had the privilege to go to Maryland facility and bring the instrument. Me and David started those. So they have they kind of a leftover, like an instrument, always they're good. There is a facility in NIH. You can write that I was a postdoc, I am working at NOVA, can I get those instruments? You can bring those instruments to the college free. You have to just apply. So, and there's most of the time good instrument, but NOVA bought a lot. And when I was there, I think we bought a HPLC. So student driven research is not out of the picture in an urban community college, specifically NOVA, like big institution. I actually thought about it, started, or 2 or 3 students already applied informally. So those are part of the program coordinator job. I think that it's like you have a grant, say NSF grant, and you are doing a student driven research. So it gives you more energy, more interesting aspect of the job. So that's why my main goal is like program coordinator, a little bit of research, teaching. It's a combo, so that you feel when you wake up in the morning, when you go to work, it is not that you are only teaching, you are doing other things too. So PhD help and postdoc help, I think.
Can I just jump in on that, Anna?
Of course.
So the challenge with being at a community college is you're going to teach freshman and sophomore level courses your entire time at the community college. And physics hasn't really changed in like, bajillion years, right? So the challenge is to keep engaged with everything. So new ways of presenting the materials and so on. How can I use the modern technology, or how can I connect it with something else? But really, faculty here can stay engaged in their field in so many different ways. And the sky is the limit. If you're enthusiastic, you can keep up on the literature. You can have speakers come in, you can be a speaker, you can oversee a student project, independent project, you can teach an honors class with more latitude. But the risk is when you're coming in the very first time, you don't want to say, my research this, my research that, my research the next thing, because as a hiring manager at a community college, I want somebody who can jump in the classroom tomorrow and teach. I don't need a researcher. So kind of keep it in as you're looking to be competitive, especially if you go for a permanent teaching job at a community college. Don't even list research on an interest letter. Just leave those words out of it, because you want to stress that you're interested in teaching more than anything. But you can absolutely stay engaged and interested and start projects, start collaborations, apply for NSF grants. There's all kinds of things that you can do to keep current and interested and get other people interested in what you're interested in, especially if it's cheap like yeast.
Yes.
Although the antibodies might not be.
Yeah, or Drosophila, culture Drosophila, yes.
I mean, science is
my
never
research-
cheap.
Yeah, my research is no longer cheap, but we happen to have a lot of equipment, so things work out okay.
So Maggie, you mentioned people paying attention to what they put in the interest letter, not so much about research, because you want to know about being a teacher and not a researcher. So what do you consider most important in a teaching philosophy statement? And in an interest letter as well?
I more read the letters if it's somebody who's going to come in to try to go for a permanent position. And I really want somebody who is committed to and passionate about teaching community college students, and absolutely at my institution. So I want them not only at Nova, but on my campus, because that's where they're going to be housed. So I want somebody who's looked into my campus and understands something of the demographics, which is really freely available online, to understand that we have a very diverse student population. And I can't remember whether it was Lori and Nadine who was talking about it, I think it's Nadine, the diversity isn't strictly racial, but we are very racially diverse here. I want somebody who's not only okay with that, but thrives in it. And the socioeconomic diversity, from millionaires, and I'm not exaggerating, to people who live in their cars or have no place to go home to, or rely on our food pantry on campus. So, I mean, I want people who just are absolutely excited about conveying science and getting people excited. It is a magic moment. The very first time it happened, I'll never forget it, when a student said to me, I didn't know I could do science. And 2 years later, she came back to me and said, I've got accepted to nursing school. Or people who say, can you write my letter to vet school? And then I got in, you know, that's just, they didn't know they could do it. I didn't know. When I walked into community college my first day, I didn't know I even had an interest in science, right? And that very first lecture, that moment he opened his mouth and started talking about biology and going from huge to molecular, all in the same sentence, just was so exciting to me. And I want people who can convey their love and passion of science. So put that in your letter, leave out the research, or show me how you can apply it to teaching, and I'll be excited to have you.
That's great. Thank you. So Nadine, we were talking about diversity, and there's another very important statement that is essential for the application process, which is the diversity and equity statement. So what makes a good statement? And if you were a recruiter, what would you look for in a statement like that, in an applicant statement?
I think that most people write pretty good equity and diversity statements, but then the question that really is behind it is do they honor it? Are they sensitive enough? Do they understand it? And likewise, coming from an institutions have great equity and diversity statements, but you know, can they back it? And I think really you can't know until the person is working, you know, truly what's in the heart. And in the West, we put so much into the cognitive development, and we put a lot into psychomotor. You know, we're crazy about sports and that kind of thing. But the affective domain, I think, is the most important domain. And so, you know, people have to learn how to get along with one another and to love one another. And so we have to go through a lot of trainings, and a lot of faculty go, oh, another diversity training, oh. But we really need that. And I think until you look at the next person as a sibling and as your equal, we have to keep on going through these trainings. And so that's really about all I have to say about that. A person can very much think that they are open and that they're able to deal with others, and then when you put them into a situation with very different people, they might find stressors there that they didn't realize. And I would suggest doing some of these trainings just to question yourself, you know what's really your outlook, because what we think of ourselves is very often not what we actually project.
Yes. Or what we are when we're put in the situation, right?
Yeah.
We only know when we are in the situation. Yes.
Yeah.
So, Lori, you are an advisor, and in your own words, you love to give unsolicited and solicited advice to people thinking about teaching as a career. What is the most important piece of advice that comes to mind to give people who are thinking about applying to teach at a community college?
Yeah, I'm trying to be concise because normally I open my mouth and I talk for 50 minutes, but of course I have 3 pieces of advice. So um, the first thing that I'll say to anybody who says, hey, I'm thinking about teaching, if you like to teach, then teaching is the greatest job in the world. And I am not kidding about that. But if you don't like teaching, I can't think of something worse to be stuck doing day after day. And you just have to find out if you like teaching, and finding out might be teaching your first course. But I think a lot of people do figure it out pretty early on when they start to teach. And again, if you love it, it's great. The second thing, Maggie has already said, but I'm going to restate it. So, particularly for PhDs, hey, you know how to do research? Well, here's a really important thing. Research the school you're applying to and do apply to it, but please don't tell me what you're going to get out of it. I know you need a job. I'm quite sure about that because you applied. I need to know what you're going to do for me and my students. I need somebody to teach non-majors biology, possibly starting in 2 weeks, right? And
Tomorrow.
yeah, well, that's my third hint, but or tip. But the thing is that like, so we offer 1 or 2 sections of genetics. That's the sort of highest level biology we offer. Don't tell me about that. Everybody wants to teach genetics. Actually, it turns out teaching non-major science is really incredibly fun. And someone can ask me personally about that. I'll tell you all about it. But research the school. Take a look at how many sections they offer. And again, don't tell me that, whatever highfalutin thing you do, we don't teach that. Third secret, and this is the dirty little secret, and I'm quite sure we all know it. Maggie knows it. So apply to the schools, but 2 weeks before it's time for a semester to start, this assumes you have not heard back from us. 2 weeks before, send a reminder to a couple of the department chairs. I don't know where, could be us, could be someone else. Next semester, someone's going to get a job or move, or something's going to happen, and we are going to need 1 person tomorrow to start. Right? And at that point, I know we have all these screenings and we've read your letters and it's all good, but guess what? If you can fog a mirror, you'll be starting tomorrow, whoever can do it first. And all the department chairs know all the other department chairs. So if you've been in touch with Maggie, everybody else has gotten in touch with her. So whoever has the desperate need, whoever's top in my mind, I'll be like, oh, wait, this person just emailed me. So if you're serious, the thing is, that's the hardest way to start. It might be the easiest way to get the job, but oh my gosh, you are going to have a semester like no other. But it might work for you.
That's how I started, and it's a lot of fun. It's a roller.
Oh my gosh.
And you have to have the hell of a chutzpah. Don't beep that out. You got to have chutzpah. You just got to. I remember one adjunct.
I can't believe you started that way. Wow.
We've all had the situation where you got to hire somebody to start tomorrow. And one very sweet lady was teaching a course for me, and I won't even say which one, several years ago. And she was so timid in the classroom. And this was a group of students who needed the course for the next step in the process. And oh my God, it was just a disaster. I said, you got to put on a teaching hat and go in there and teach, right? So you got to have chutzpah, but it's fun if you do it.
Right. And another thing, every now and then somebody gets fired, and it takes a lot for us to fire someone. It actually was an NIH person who did not realize they did not have the right visa to have the job. Please make sure you can take another job. But we filled a position in 24 hours with only 1 sub going into teach. I mean, this sort of thing, Doesn't happen often because how much we teach, but the reality is those always stick in our mind because like that's a story I'll be telling the rest of my life.
Yes, I can also attest to some of this. I'm the academic coordinator for chemistry, and we've had some strange emergency hire situations. I was an emergency hire. One of our faculty members, Peggy Tierney, the late Dr. Tierney, she broke her foot, and the elevator was broken. The part that was needed to repair the elevator wasn't coming in anytime soon. And so I was hired. We had just gotten to Maryland, and I just got here at the right time to be of assistance. And so I was hired as a full-time temporary. And from there, I got on the tenure track, and that's my story.
That's amazing. So is that 50% of us got our jobs emergency? I didn't, but maybe I'm the only one.
Seems like it's at least 50%, right?
But can I also add that teaching is that's definitely your major job, but at Prince George's Community College, you're also rated on your departmental contributions, your contributions to the college, and your professional development. So keep that in mind. You cannot just teach if you want to move higher.
Yeah, and to add to that, you need to want to advise students. So students, you're given a cohort of students if you get permanently hired where you're going to be their academic advisor, and that's great, but you have to want to do it and you have to be engaged with them.
Also different committee, right? Like curriculum committee, like I'm in the single staff advisory committee. And yes, so serving different committee also part of the job.
So you have different responsibilities as a professor, not only the teaching part, but what about career development? Is it allowed? So we know that research is not part of your responsibilities as a community college professor, but can you do other career development?
You must. You must.
Yeah.
And you can do research if you want to. I still do, sort of. I mean, it's weird, but I still do it.
Me too. Me too.
I have done to just make sure my skills were up to date in the lab. I did a sabbatical with the FDA on the NIH campus, and I was also an ORISE fellow there. Also, I took off a year to go to Harvard to get an MED in technology, innovation, and education, and just keep on, going to workshops and, things of that nature. Don't let your skills get rusty.
And professional conferences are amazing to attend when you take a cohort of students. So I mean, you get such a high taking students and engaging them with professional conferences. And we have area like microbiology, there's cell conferences, there's all kinds, I mean, NIH has conferences, and so you can stay at the top of your game. I get journals still.
Yes, and science you get, I remember. Yeah.
Right.
Now that's an issue there for us, the journals, the Journal of Chemical Education is available to us. We have access maybe to 3 journals, but we can't really afford all of the major journals. So when I need to read, I go all the way over to College Park, and I go to their library, their chemistry library.
In interlibrary borrowing is option, right? We used to borrow, remember, from the university.
Don't have that.
Well, it is, but when we have part-time faculty who are still NIH associated, guess what? They have library privileges.
Yes, they have. Open for the PubMed, yes.
Does that go in the teaching statement or in the?
Maggie, I know that you are a strong advocate, and you talked about it, for creating a supportive work environment for faculty, which ultimately leads to student success. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you support faculty members working with you? And this is really because I want to help people understand what type of support should candidates be seeking for when applying from the institutions.
So my ability to support faculty is contingent upon or predicated on their communicating with me as well. So I think listening actively to faculty helps me support them. I'm going to focus just on adjuncts because that's kind of where all of you might be applying first. But what is, whoever I'm talking to, what is your goal with wanting to teach for me? Because I can help you teach for me if you have a passion for teaching and achieve whatever goal that is. So I don't want to give you, if you're doing research that takes you to a 3 a.m. time point, I'm not going to give you an 8 a.m. class because it would clash. Or if you have to get your kid to daycare by 9 o'clock, I'm not going to give you a 9:30 class. So I try to coordinate schedules. And so that's one way I try to support faculty. But also, obviously, when you're going to adjunct teach for me, I want to make sure you have the resources, not just publisher resources, but also things like engagement toolkits. What's the quickest way or easiest way for me to engage with students, especially with COVID, where we're all working remotely? What are some ways I can convey information more effectively and easily, like click buttons? I mean, I want the easiest information to get out to people. But most importantly, I think there's two things that are most important. One is mentoring new faculty with senior faculty who have some common interests, and helping faculty. The other one is helping faculty navigate challenging student situations, because every semester, given the diversity of our student population, and I mean like the socioeconomic, the experience, the whole gamut, you're going to need every faculty, the most experienced faculty needs help navigating student challenges. And that's something that I really enjoy doing. And I hope my faculty feel like I support them. But if by supporting them, I am supporting the students, because it takes a little stress off of the situation. And then they know that they can be free to be a better faculty member. But also sometimes faculty want to do things that are fun. Like one of you talked about, Nadene talked about going for a year to someplace. I've written recommendations for Fulbright scholarships, for foundation grants, and other opportunities for faculty to do something that they're passionate and interested in. Made sure we have equipment for faculty who want to do field research or whatever it is. So I think you need to be with somebody you click with and who you know has your back for whatever your goals are. And so as the person coming in, you have to communicate your goals honestly with the hiring person, and you know, then I can support whatever those goals are.
And if I could just add one thing, and you said it beautifully, but people who've been teaching for a while have experience, and I'm never going to say I've seen it all because it's amazing. Something new happens every semester, but I've seen a lot, and it's very stressful the first time something happens. Please talk to people, because we often do have advice. We've been through it. We will help you. And then you'll have that experience and you'll be passing it along to the next person.
Yeah, even I presented, if you remember, Dr. Emblom, that in University of Commonwealth, our research plan as a team. So you allowed us and paid for us to attend a conference.
Right.
And yes, and then we presented our plan, student-driven research, like 3 or 4 faculty members.
Yeah.
So those are options are open. It's you can go to a meeting.
Mm-hmm. So talking about difficult situations, we couldn't have a discussion in 2020 without mentioning COVID and the impact it has had in people's lives, both personally and professionally. So Suman, you teach entirely online at the Northern Virginia Community College since 2015. And for people who are starting now to prepare courses online, what are the biggest challenges and advantages as well of teaching online versus in person?
The advantages are many, that you can work remotely, but and then you don't have to go on campus, so you can save the coffee money and fuel. But it is a long story. You have to be trained. It is not easy, especially web-based. Remote yes, you have still flexibility to talk every week and your office hours for, I do Zoom call all the time, but web-based is a training, is a special training, and you have to go through that process. You have to have the confidence about how to run. So student will know if you have the weakness to run that their discussion board or grade book, or so it takes really time. I mean, it just, you cannot start instantly. First the certification, then I believe somebody need to train you. Like I remember in first 2-3 years, somebody used to watch my course all the time. If I do any mistake, they used to email me from the Eli group. And now I'm confident, I know what I'm doing, and it open to all. It open to the technical advisor and everything. So my answer is advantages remote. You are staying in Germany or England, you can teach web-based class. But the disadvantage is not really disadvantage, you have to be ready. You have to know the system, and you are not web-based and remote, two different things, by the way. Remote, still you are presenting yourself. Still you are teaching. Still you are every week on a certain time you are meeting. What I do, that is a special thing you can do from anywhere else. But communication is the key. You have to be, because students do not see you, you have to be very interactive. All the time there is a call, ask your professor, ask my professor. I check every 2-3 hours because somebody needs like emergency question. Somebody is asking, I do not have the access to the lab one, or this is broken, the video links. This is the key. What I do better, this is my nature now, and of course Maggie does the same. We check over in our phone day and night, other than we are sleeping. But people need to be careful. You promise, you are obliged, but then you are out of touch. Then it's a problem. So it is very much, you are on ground. You are kind of online, but on ground all the time. So that is the disadvantage. You are on vacation. Whenever I go anywhere, I go to dinner, I check my phone. I have to. This is the bad habit could be. And I check if any problem. And one most important thing, when the due date, that's our main job, exam, quiz, lab. Two turning point. One is when you kick off, when you start, you have to make sure everything is ready. Everything is ready, everything is okay, fine, check, 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 and then you start. Because you're launching something, right? It's live. And then every due date is important because student can miss the due date and they want to retake the exam or quiz or lab. And you have constantly talk with the Pearson or McGraw-Hill, the publisher. So it's a kind of teamwork, to be honest with you. And it's a teamwork to know the material, to know your communication and what is happening online. So it is a technique, it is a method, but it works fine for me. When you first begin, it is stressful. When you are after 1 year or something like that, then you know the system. So it's a system. It's a unique system, actually.
May
I always
add to that?
Of course.
Yeah, I flipped my classes many years ago, made videos and had the students to watch the videos before coming to class. So in class, we didn't do a lot of lecturing. We did mostly activities and exercises. But now in this environment, I like a hybrid class. I don't mind where the lecture is online and then the lab meets face to face, and I get to meet my students and, touch bases with them. But the completely remote environment is very difficult because legally you cannot require students to show themselves and things of that nature, and it's lonely. I miss them. and that's just something to really think about if you are teaching an online class where there's no expectation that you're going to see the students. It's asynchronous. You might never see them, but when you're teaching remote, you're there synchronously with them, but they don't have to show themselves and things of that nature. And it's a very different environment, and I miss them.
And one thing that always comes to my mind in terms of communication is all these, we all have different styles of communicating, right? And some people like to move around the class. Some people like to talk a lot with their hands. And we know we all have particular styles. So I wonder for the people like me who like to move, and then suddenly you have to be sitting down in a chair and teaching for an hour or I don't know how many hours. That is an added challenge, right? On top of everything you already mentioned, is really just you have to change your style and be there. Because that's the way it is now, right? You have a camera and you have to, because if you walk around, you disappear from the camera. So, and what about the hiring process, Maggie? Has the pandemic affected the hiring process? Are community colleges, or at least yours, still hiring faculty at the moment?
Yeah, because I'm not hiring as fast as I would without the pandemic, because I'd rather make sure that whoever's taking on a class is comfortable in the class. And to take somebody brand new who has no teaching experience and put them behind a Zoom camera for synchronous learning and ask them to be engaged with students without even having a chance to show them anything. Oh my God, I think it would be so challenging, but we are doing it to some extent when we have to. I mean, because like Lori said, faculty leave, adjuncts move out of town. It just happens, and we're always reshuffling our pool. But it's definitely a challenge right now. And I would be jumping on Zooms probably every class for some period of time for the first few weeks for anybody who was new, just to help them monitor and give suggestions and so on. But yes, we are hiring. You still go through the same process of looking at the jobs on Nova website. You fill out the application, you send an email to whoever's hiring, even if it's not requested or required. And the idea of doing it a week or two before the semester, 2 weeks before the semester, when somebody has said, oh, I'm leaving out of town and can't teach 3 classes for you, it is key. It is really key
to adjust to the current time, right? And situation.
Yeah.
So I have one final question, and this question is really to all of you, and is, what do you wish someone had told you when you were applying to teach at your community college?
Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. But also, don't be a pest. don't email somebody every day. The 2 weeks before the semester started, maybe midway through or 4 weeks into it, saying, I'm sorry, there wasn't a job for me this time, but maybe next time I'd really like a chance to meet you. And then 2 weeks before the semester next time, but don't give up. And if you're going for a permanent teaching position at the community college, plan to adjunct until there's funding. It's really, hiring is really tight everywhere right now. And surely some places still need faculty, but the chance of a full-time faculty position right now, as everybody can imagine, is probably really hard. And somebody who's been teaching for a while and has built up a reputation is going to probably have an edge over somebody who has never taught before. So be patient and build up your experience.
I would say pretty much what I indicated before, that don't come with the expectation of just teaching. You come expecting to fully engage in many different ways. You serve your department, you serve the college as a whole, writing grants, serving on the faculty grievance committee and faculty senate, things of that nature. And professional development must be ongoing. You cannot not improve yourself for 20 years or 15 years. Professional development has to be ongoing.
I don't know what to say. You guys have said good things. I'm not.
Exactly. Yes.
The thing I didn't know, but I'm not sure how much this matters. So one of my interviews, I'm going to call this an older gentleman, but there was someone who really truly was out of touch with with molecular biology, which was a new thing at the time. And I realized at some point that I had to make sure that that person who really knew less than the students I wound up teaching about the subject, that's the person I had to aim at, because if that person, I'm going to call him the dinosaur, with love in my heart, was a really good friend of mine after that. But if this dinosaur, who also, by the way, had the most political power in the department, but if that person understood it was a research talk at the time, then that I think that's what got me the job. But it wasn't a community college. At community colleges, often will make someone give a teaching demonstration, and like I will pretend to be a student and I will ask a question, and you'll probably look at me like, she doesn't know that. It's like, I'm a student right now. So be prepared for really bizarre questions, because sometimes we get them.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing, Anna. If you do go for some adjunct positions, but all full-time positions, you have to give a practice lecture. The keys to a successful practice lecture are timing. If they give you a time, you must be in that time. And you have to practice and then cut back about half your slides, because you're going to have overestimated. And less is more. The less you have on a slide, the better the slide is. I still have adjuncts who, especially if they're teaching biochem for me or an upper level course, will have these hugely wordy slides, and you're like, oh my God, take those words off of there. If you cannot explain to me if you cannot in 3 minutes explain to me the difference between mitosis and meiosis with a piece of chalk and a chalkboard, this isn't the job for you.
Because in many classes, they're non-science major. I mean, you can assume that's another thing, like 105, 108, like basic general biology, you may have business major or may have few classes they are taking, but their major is not biology.
Or worse yet, somebody who said, take biology, it's easy.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Accountant wanted to be nurse, and then they started. Yeah. Right. So yeah, it's a diverse audience.
Thank you so much to all of you. I think this was a great conversation. I hope it's elucidative for the people who are now thinking about a career in teaching, and particularly to teach at a community college. And you were so helpful. And it was really a pleasure to meet you all and to be able to talk to you for this hour.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it was a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.